Where'd my frickin' dice go?
The way most RPGs unify their dice and stats is by taking some number off of the character sheet and thrusting it on top of the die value. Statistically, you'll get that curve of the probable die rolls and say, adjust yourself yay high. And the higher the number on your character sheet, the yay higher it goes. That way you can more reliably go, yay! And get that sort of high that comes with putting a dagger into a goblin's face. Feels so good!
Oh, dice!
With the Fiendwake dice mechanic, we wanted to make sure to avoid certainties, but at the same time, we did not want to rob players of their confidence. Our first attempt at a dice mechanic involved some sort of pooling system that ended up being a real disaster. We tried for a really long time to make it work, and it just didn't happen. We ended up borrowing from a previous design in the Snarfhockers mechanic. You may not know what that is, because you're a Snarfhocker! A common problem with RPG systems is that when you roll a die value and then add a number on top of it, you'll get the lower bound of possible suspense, where difficulties will become foregone conclusions to certain players. And in order to avoid that boredom that will come from certainty, the GM will have to raise difficulty levels to account for that. Our design team calls that the choo-choo train problem. Woo-woo! Every RPG claims that the purpose of the die roll is to have suspense. With the choo-choo train, the problem is, in order to retain suspense, you have to constantly escalate power levels of everything that the players face, which means players don't get to fight common thugs anymore because it's just boring. Or, even worse, the GM may make the common thugs ridiculously overpowered for some inexplicable reason. And then the players will just be like, this doesn't make any sense, I'm gonna go do another thing. Video games! Video games don't avoid that problem either, though. Guys, look, I made a chart! It's so neat! A character's stats can be any integer from 1 to infinity. From the stat level, we derive the stack numbers. Stack numbers are a series of numbers that are any odd number that leads up to the stats level and the stats level itself. Stack numbers are useful in Fiendwake for determining whether or not you can add extra dice to the final value of a roll. When you roll a die, you compare it to your largest stack number. If the die's value is less than or equal to that stack number, you may roll an additional die and compare it to the next highest stack number, repeating the process until the die value either exceeds your available stack number or you run out of stack numbers. You sum all of the die values together to get the final value of your roll. For dice, Fiendwake uses the dodecahedron exclusively, because it's neat. Fiendwake has what's called the double-digit rule, which states that whenever one of these guys comes up with a value of 10 or higher, you can't toss any more dice towards a roll, regardless of what your stack numbers look like. The consequence of this is that there's an overlap of difficulty ranges that are possible to succeed at with a new character, yet still possible to fail at with a super advanced power character. Thus, we have eliminated both the concept of certain failure and the concept of certain success, while giving players confidence in the probable outcome of die rolls. Watch, I'm gonna stop the recording. I'm gonna stop the recording with this die. Ready? Oh man. I'm gonna need it higher. Would help if I hit the actual correct key.